Hi, welcome to Conquering Part Sales with Paid Advertising, hosted by Revolution Parts. My name is Lauren. I am the Senior Content Marketing Manager here at Revolution Parts, and today I am joined by Mike Rich, who is VP of eCommerce. I also have Liam Cambra from OEM Interactive. He is VP of Strategy, and Jason Lancaster from Spork Marketing. He is the president. To start this off, can you guys tell me a little bit about your background and how you made your way to parts marketing?
First, I'll go first. I kind of got to parts marketing, I'd say, through standard marketing. Like my career in marketing started about 15 years ago in occupational health and safety, actually. And then I kind of came through cybersecurity, but I've always had a passion for automotive. I've always worked on cars. I've always bought parts. And when the opportunity to get into parts kind of showed up about 5 years ago, I kind of dove in and kind of been in love with it ever since. So it just kind of blends my passion with parts and automotive with kind of my other work passion of marketing. So it's just been a great fit for me.
Awesome. What about you, Liam?
Similar to Mike, I actually am an automotive enthusiast myself. I like to work on cars and race cars. I actually have a '94 Mustang, so I've done that since I was a teenager, all throughout my 20s, and I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. So at the time, I was like buying and selling cars, parting them out, selling the parts online, like on eBay, Craigslist, and automotive forums. And then I ended up taking a position as a digital marketing manager at an agency in Boston after I did my undergrad. And I worked at that agency and worked with many large dealerships around the country, just creating campaigns for sales, parts, and service. And then in 2017, I was hired at OEM. So it's been about 7 years now, just strictly focused on auto parts marketing. And like paid ads, e-commerce, SEO, user experience, those types of things.
Awesome. Jason, how did you get here?
It's a long story, so I'll keep it short. I have a lot of automotive enthusiasm myself. I'm the proud owner of a 1995 Buick Roadmaster with wood paneling. It's ridiculous, and I love it. I have been running Spork now for 16 or 17 years, something like that. We specialize in parts and accessories marketing. Before that, I worked in dealerships for almost 10. I understand dealership operations really well. I'm a car enthusiast. I've wasted lots of money on car parts over the years, so it made sense for me to get into this business. And we've been exclusively in that business for the last 12 years. So.
Awesome. So between the three of you, I would say we have a lot of experience with paid advertising here.
I think we should have all brought pictures of cars to the show today.
I know, right?
I didn't know you had a wood grain Roadmaster. Those are so cool.
Next time, bring pictures.
Sounds fast. Yeah.
So we've all worked with dealers in the past, and you've worked with them to help them create higher sales using paid advertising. And I'm sure a lot of those dealers have done paid advertising on their own before coming to you. Are there mistakes that you commonly see dealers make?
I can start. One common mistake I think we see, when we get dealers really kind of new to e-commerce, I would say, is a lot of times a dealer will come on and get in the space and not have really any experience in e-commerce. And they think they could just build the website and put their parts online and they're going to sell themselves, so to speak. So they just really don't understand like what it takes to get started and what the investment is in marketing. Or sometimes they'll have like marketing resources inside the dealership that might be more focused on like service and new car sales. And they think they can maybe leverage those resources, but it's not typically the same type. It's always not the same type of marketing that parts requires. So those kind of a couple of the things that we see.
And I definitely see the same thing with the partners that we've onboarded in the past, especially like what you said, Mike, with using like their in-house marketing departments or marketing agencies that are more focused on like sales and service. It's a totally different ballgame when you're focused on like your local backyard versus advertising on e-commerce, especially across the entire country. There's different KPIs to look at. It's not really a one-to-one. So assuming that your sales department marketing agency can also do e-commerce, and specifically auto parts and accessories e-commerce, is kind of a stretch sometimes. So that's definitely a mistake that we've seen as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I might add just one little thing. You guys both nailed the big stuff. The other mistake that I see people make is not necessarily recognizing that Google and Facebook and Microsoft ads, that they're out to extract as much revenue as they can from their advertisers. And if you're not viewing anything that they say or do with an extremely high degree of skepticism, you're probably wasting money. So that would be my other note, was if Google's giving you that A+ rating on your campaigns, there's something wrong, right? Like you've got to dive in there and make an adjustment. So anyway.
That's a great call out, Jason. And I think that's true across to all marketing. Yeah, Google's always going to try to get you to spend as much money as possible.
Absolutely.
The Google rep.
Yeah, there's nothing more offensive to me than the Google Ads landing page that shows the smiling, happy business owner who set up their own ads in 2 minutes, and they've been making a bunch of money from that. And it is just, I mean, we should get the feds involved. Like, that is the most deceptive advertising I've ever seen. It is extremely difficult to sell parts online profitably, and it takes a lot of expertise and hard work to be able to do it profitably. You can lose money and do it, that's easy, but anyway.
Well, despite these challenges, why do you think paid advertising is so important to include in your marketing strategy? Like, why not just focus on email or SEO?
I mean, it's for most of these dealers. Go ahead, Liam, you take this one.
I would say, especially when a site is new and you don't have much traffic going to your site initially, it's really good to get some paid traffic in there, especially like highly targeted paid traffic for your specific target audience, just to kind of like prime the site with that target audience, because a lot of people expect to just like launch a site and you're just automatically going to have traffic to your site. It really doesn't work that way in brick and mortar, never mind on e-commerce. So I would say that's definitely something to pay attention to. And paid ads allow you to, again, prime the site and just get those people onto the site. And it also allows to like remarket to audiences. So even if they came in through referral traffic or social or organic traffic, you can throw them into remarketing lists and advertise to them and just like nurture them during their like customer journey, essentially.
Nice.
Absolutely. I don't know if everybody saw what I saw, but Eric Schmidt, the former one of the co-founders of Google, was interviewed yesterday about Google's AI plans, and his comment in that interview was that the future of Google search results is not going to have links. So they basically are saying that Google organic results as we know them today are going to disappear. And in that environment, advertising will be one of the only ways you can bring people to your site. So that's true of parts marketing, and that's true of dealership marketing in general. I think SEO is very much on the decline.
Yeah, I had not seen that, but that's really interesting. And I think AI is going to end up, it's changing a lot of the way we do things already.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll just add, like, yeah, Google is obviously, as time has gone on, continued to prioritize paid placements.
Mm-hmm.
There goes the dogs, paid placements over organic. You go back years, not maybe 5-6 years ago, like organic listings were much higher up. Now paid pushes them even further down. And paid's a great place to learn too. Like, organic can be a long game if you're like trying to find new keywords and target markets and things of that nature. Sometimes it's much more efficient to learn with a little bit of ad budget.
Absolutely.
Speaking of all these changes, aside from AI and the things you just mentioned, Mike, what other changes have you seen in paid advertising over the past few years, especially if it concerning auto parts?
Was that one for Mike?
Sorry, the dogs are still
Oh,
barking. Just trying to quiet them down. Yeah, I mean, PMax, I mean, is relatively new from like a search perspective. Like that is almost kind of Google's like AI-ish kind of solution to, shop, using their properties to get your parts out there. So that's relatively new. There's been some like other minor changes, like around like match types on PPC campaigns. Uh, yeah, nothing like super crazy though that I could think of to call out. I mean, PMax is probably the biggest change from like an SEM perspective that I could think of.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. Like the PMax, the smart campaigns, and just moving away from the more traditional like manual bidding strategies with like shopping, search, display, and video ads. Um, I always have like a healthy amount of skepticism when it comes to like Google and like the PMax campaigns and stuff, because at the end of the day, you don't want to just set it and forget it. It's not a good strategy. You don't want to be advertising to people that aren't your actual like target audience. So um, I think it's still good to have some of those manual campaigns running, but that's definitely a huge change with Google implementing all that AI and automation.
Yeah, on the Facebook side, we work with a lot of brands. So on the Facebook side, we've seen a big change in their ability to identify potential customers. And they're using some sort of machine learning targeting method, but it's just in the last year and a half or so, it's become really cost effective to do prospecting and awareness campaigns on that platform with a conversion target. Like that's awesome. We've done prospecting and awareness on Facebook for a long time, but usually you can't use a conversion target, which means you're spending money and you don't necessarily bring any money in. And that's changing. So, if you're a dealership that has your own in-house brand or your own products, your own brand name, Facebook, Instagram is a much better opportunity now than it was, say, 18 months ago.
When people are running these ads, what metrics do you think that they should pay attention to the most? Obviously, we want to see which ones are making the most money, but what are the most critical metrics they should be paying attention to?
I mean, you said it, Lauren, like, are they making money? That is the most critical metric. Everything else is just, goes by the wayside. I
Right.
always like to say a lot of times, like, transactions over traffic. So
Hmm.
like focusing on like how much transactions and how much revenue you're driving first, and then kind of working back up the funnel. That's usually what we do, and see if there's places to optimize to drive more transactions. So yeah, looking at, your return on ad spend is, typically one of the main drivers that we first look at, or your ROI on ad spend. Sometimes we'll look at a return on marketing spend, across all channels. Of course, you look at your standard stuff, your click-through rates, your cost per clicks, and your average profit margin on your products and the ranges that you're selling in. But yeah, those are some of the things we tend to look at.
Yeah, we look at the same thing, especially like conversion rate, ROAS, so return on ad spend. We just want to make sure that the traffic that's going to your site is like the budget is basically being spent efficiently and effectively. Like if your ROAS is too low, then we're going to make adjustments based on that or make recommendations, switch up the strategy. Same thing with like conversion rates. If we look at a new site and the conversion rate is say like under 1%, maybe it's like 0.7 or something like 0.07%, then we're going to make recommendations based on that as well. And then one other one that you didn't mention was like average order value. That's something that we're really big on, and just making sure that we pay attention to the like operational efficiency at a dealership and making sure that they're fulfilling orders that are actually like valuable to them, that they're actually, there's a profit margin for them. So for example, like fulfilling an order, one order of $200 is better than fulfilling 2 orders of $100. Just it's the same amount of work, you're getting double the money for it. So just trying to make sure that it's profitable for the partner and is scalable essentially.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Those are all good metrics.
We would add
Yeah.
one thing. Like, I'm glad you called out AOV too, Liam. That's a good thing. We pay a lot of attention to that. Something we kind of look at sometimes too is it's not directly related to SEM, but we'll look at like the percent of traffic to the site that's return, or how your return visitors are doing. to see if like you're fulfilling like at a good rate, like what's your cancellation rate, what's your average fulfillment time. Like they're not necessarily related to SEM, but you can't use SEM alone to drive a profitable parts business. So we will look at stuff like that outside of SEM too.
Yeah, exactly. And like with return users, you could also look at like the lifetime value of the customer. It's really easy to just look at an order on like an individual order basis. But if that customer has a good experience on your site and you provide good customer service, then they're more likely to come back or refer somebody else to your site. So it's not always just that one order. You got to think about down the road, will they come back? Are they going to purchase more? And just trying to increase how many times they do come back to the site.
When running these ads, how would you recommend that somebody determine what their right budget should be? Like, let's say I'm going to start running, I want to start running paid ads and I've never done it before. How should I determine how much I should spend, not knowing what an average dealer spends?
Usually start with the revenue target personally. I don't know how you guys do it. We usually talk to the dealer and see like what's their revenue target and where they want to be from a revenue perspective and what they can support and how we ramp up to that. It's typical how we go about it.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely look at that as well. Whatever their revenue goal is, the competitiveness of their specific brand or brands that are on their site. Obviously, some brands have more competitors in the space than others, so just got to be realistic about what the actual target and goal is. But yeah, I would echo that as well.
Yeah, my problem with that is when we ask dealers what their goal is, the answer is always $1 million a month. So, what I typically say is let's start with enough budget that we can get some data on how the site performs. If we're not run ads before, and if the site is already running ads, then we obviously are going to set budget based on performance. But we want to grow it every month, right? We all want it to make as much money as possible, and enough money to get started and sort of do a test is typically $1,000, $1,500 a month. If you're just doing Google, get you enough to know how your site converts, how your cart works, if you're priced correctly, etc. Gives your parts department some time to sort of do some practice, right? Do some orders, do some pick, pack, and ship, and make sure they don't have any problems. So that's a good place to start.
I agree. We set minimums too. It sounds like you probably set minimums too, Jason, like a minimum amount to start with. We're usually like in the same range, 1,500, $2,000 in that range.
Awesome. Good to know. You had mentioned using data. Can you talk about the importance that data and like analytics of these ads plays in making adjustments to drive better success for future ads? Or rather, how important is data, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, we're heavily focused on data
Sorry.
at OEM Interactive, and we like closely follow all those KPIs such as like ROAS or conversion rates, average order value. We're constantly looking at those types of things and trying to segment the data, try to figure out, for example, like if we see that campaigns, like parts campaigns are performing better than accessories, then take those insights and maybe make adjustments, whether it's to budget or the pricing, or maybe ads are performing better in some states than others, and just taking those insights and trying to come up with like actionable items that we can implement that'll increase sales.
Do you guys ever run like A/B tests to create better campaigns?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, go ahead, Liam. I'm sorry.
No, so yeah, I think A/B testing is like imperative. You definitely need to take like a scientific approach. It kind of, again, goes hand in hand with data and analytics. But I'm very scientific minded, so I just think if you're not testing different things, you're never going to get closer to like the objective truth. So if you're just setting it and forget it, whether it's your own in-house marketing agency or an agency that's just like setting campaigns on set it and forget it, and maybe it's performance max campaigns or something like that, and you're not A/B testing different variables, then you're just not going to be able to optimize. You're kind of just accepting whatever the initial results are and not trying to refine based on different variables.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My only note would be a lot of testing is built in to the most modern versions of all of the campaigns have testing, at least messaging testing integrated. So we're doing less testing on terms of like the traditional A/B, what's the best way to write this ad, which is kind of how when I started, that's how it worked. And more of what if we restructure this account, or what if we take, like Liam was saying, take a campaign and break it out by product type or category or whatever. Like that's where some of your A/B testing will come in. And then obviously website A/B testing too, which is sort of outside the scope of paid search, but something that I'm sure we all do. So yeah, that's important too.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and just echo all those comments. Like, yeah, when we got started, I think, yeah, it was, I remember you used to have to write your own headlines for your ad groups and write your own ad groups and test
Yeah.
those. Those days are gone. Now I mean, we used to test campaigns back then, campaign structure and campaign types as well. But yeah, now like testing ad copy isn't really as much of a thing as it used to be. That's a lot of stuff that's been automated now, and you focus more on, yeah, the campaign structure and types of campaigns and, yeah, parts that are in different campaigns or whatever else it may be.
Can you guys talk a little bit about, and I know a couple of you have mentioned different types of paid ads. Can you discuss the different types of paid ads that exist, and like what the difference is? Like, for example, the difference between search ads and shopping ads.
Yeah, I mean, I can take this one if you guys want. So search ads are very common. Obviously, a lot of people use them. One major thing that I would say about them is that they pretty much have like a title, a description, maybe some site link extensions, that type of thing. Whereas a shopping ad actually has like the part number, title, description, potentially like a promo in there, and most importantly, an image of the actual product that the customer is looking for. And then, so that's all things that are going to improve the click-through rate on an ad. Whereas like with a search ad, you're going to click on that ad and go to like a category page or the home page. And it's going to require the user to kind of like click through, go to search, and it's going to just create more friction while they're going through the site and more chances for them to bounce off of your site and abandon their purchase. Whereas a shopping ad gets them right to that exact landing page, that product page that they're looking for, and just increases the likelihood that they're actually going to convert. So I would say if you're not doing shopping ads, that's not a good thing. It's not a way to succeed in this space, at least. And it's just going to improve your conversion rate, ROAS, and all that, all those different KPIs. If you're doing shopping ads, they're very efficient. And one other thing that they also have is like you're building the shopping ads based off of your whole product feed, and your product feed has way more keywords in it than you're likely to have in one of your search ad campaigns. So, for example, like different alternators, fitment, stuff like that is all going to be a part of those individual ads. There's much more diversity in a shopping ad than there is in a search ad.
Awesome. Speaking of like what's in shopping ads and search ads and landing pages, how important is the content that is in those, whether it's the ad or the landing page, the text, the images or videos that are used? How important is this?
Very important. I would say more
Like, I know
so
that answer.
yes, the content, this like shopping ads super important. That's like foundational piece of your part selling strategy. And the shopping ads are really driven by the quality of your product listings. So like if you have poor images, like if you have no images, you're not even going to be in a shopping ad. Like you need images, like you need good descriptions, you need the data on the shopping pages, the product pages to give consumers the confidence that the parts there are what they need to convert. So anytime like that's one of the first places we actually start a lot of times is like if campaigns are not performing, like is traffic getting to the page? Yes, check. Okay, is the traffic converting? No. Okay, well, what does the product content look like? Is it missing images? Does it not have reviews? Is it missing fitment data? Like where's the quality in the product listing? Is the pricing too high?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would add too, like with ad content, you're really focusing on like trying to improve like the click-through rate essentially. And then like the second part of that is like the landing page content. It's very similar. Like with the landing page, you want to make sure that you are increasing the conversion rate. And the way to do that is providing an actual image of the product, not just a schematic image. it's just another way to set yourself apart, have a more detailed description, a more detailed title, and those types of things. Whereas like on the ad side of it, like I said, you're trying to increase the click-through rate, because if you can increase your click-through rate, then your cost per click goes down. So then you're essentially getting more clicks for the same budget. And if you can accomplish that, then your ROAS is likely to increase. And as Mike was saying, like the way to do that is just having unique ads with images and product data, fitment data, those types of things, and just trying to set yourself apart from the other maybe 20 competitor ads that are side by side with your ad.
Yeah, only thing I would add to all of that is reviews. Reviews are really critical content. A good review rating, a good some third-party validation that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Consumers are very skeptical, and generally speaking, don't trust websites they haven't heard of before. So reviews are the way you overcome that obstacle, and that's really critical content too. But I agree with everything that has been said. Like, you've got to differentiate, and you've got to have all the key data that the customer needs to figure out if that part is for the right one. What's bizarre to us is we have done some testing on this, and if the image doesn't match the part, like it's the same family of part, for example, it's an alternator. Alternators all kind of look the same if you're not paying close attention. If the alternator connector is not shown in the image, or if the connector is a little bit different than the connector on the one that you're shipping, that can be a conversion obstacle, which is bizarre, because if you use, when I shop for parts, I use the year, make, model lookup, and if it says it fits, I trust that it fits. But a lot of people will pull the part off the car and hold it in one hand and look at the website in the other hand. If they don't match, they're gone. So it's bizarre, but it's how some people do it.
Yeah. And I would
I
add to
think
that too.
Jason made a good, sorry, Liam. I think Jason made a good point too. I want to like hammer down on this. Like, it's not just having content, it's having unique content. A lot of people will stand up, the default parts catalog and be like, oh, this part has an image. Cool, I'm good. Well, you're much better if you take a picture yourself and add to it and enhance the content that's already there and set yourself apart. So you might look a little different in the carousel than the 47 other ads that are for that part.
And we've done
Yeah.
A/B tests well with like click-through rates and conversion rates and ROAS, like the differences in segmenting between a custom, like a product page that has a custom image versus a product page that has just a normal schematic image. And we tend to see like 70 to 80% higher conversion rate and ROAS for the pages that have custom images. So that just goes to show you, like, it's almost double the success rate when you actually have a custom image that somebody can see, like, okay, this is actually the part that fits my vehicle. Or yeah, I mean, seeing is believing. That's how we purchase. So having
Awesome.
a custom image is really important from what we've seen.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say I think some of the most successful dealers that we work with, they are the ones that they're taking their own images and making sure that they have high quality images that actually match the part that they're selling, like down to the T. So I would definitely agree with that.
I always joke whenever you go on a dealer visit and if you see like that white tent like sitting in the parts department,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a successful dealer. I don't even have to look at your sales.
You know what you're doing. Speaking of content and kind of playing off this a little bit, and I guess just websites and ads in general. I know mobile optimization has been very important over the past few years, especially for SEO and just the quality of your website. I know we see like over half of purchases are actually made through mobile. Does this matter for ads?
I would say definitely. We're seeing the same thing, like up to 70% of users are using their mobile device at least at one touch point, because obviously not everybody just like sees an ad and then purchases on that first day. They also shop around a little bit or might come back at a later date, but at least 70% of them are using a mobile device at one point in that journey. So mobile responsiveness, mobile optimization, making sure it's easy for them to flow through the site. We tend to look at like the desktop version of the website, and maybe sometimes it slips through the cracks to like see like how does the button look? Is there different things that are overlaying? Is it difficult to press this button? That's something like we're always looking at as far as like the UX, the user experience side of it, and just making sure that mobile works very well on multiple devices, not just one browser, but multiple different browsers, because the way that web development works, it could break in one browser or one size screen, but not the other. So I would say that's extremely important.
Awesome. What advice would you give to dealers who are just starting with paid ads or maybe thinking about going into it?
I would say, I don't know, I guess I would definitely partner with an agency that has experience in the specific like auto parts and accessories, e-commerce space. Don't just rely on like an e-commerce agency or an agency that works with a lot of dealerships on the sales side of things. Like I said before, I would just make sure that you're using somebody that knows this specific space inside and out. It has experience and proven results.
Yeah, I agree. That's usually what I say. Like, just make sure you're working with first e-commerce, and then parts and accessories experience, and like ask to see like, proof cases of like dealers they work with or parts sellers they work with, and talk to them about like what metrics they track, and you know s- what their returns are on ad spend are on average, what like a ramp looks like with them. Just yeah, get a good agency. Don't think I mean, you could figure it out on your own. Like it's not, it takes time. Like you could go in, like if you had an agency in house, like they could probably get in there, they could probably figure it out over time. But what's going to happen is they're going to spend a bunch of money on a ton of stuff they don't know if it performs or not. And you're going to have a long kind of a road to getting to profitability by starting with a parts marketing agency, e-commerce agency. Like we've taken all the lumps. Like we know like what works, what doesn't work, what performs well. So you kind of get a kickstart, so to speak.
Yeah, my advice, I mean, I like everything you guys said. My advice to new dealers is always really operational. Um, a lot of times the parts department is a black box inside the dealership, right? Like the general manager knows that the parts are there and knows that they go in and out, but doesn't necessarily understand how it works. And so you see a lot of times either the parts manager is the champion of doing e-commerce, and there's a lot of work that we've got to do to explain the mechanics of that business to higher up and set expectations, right? And so there's a lot of work there. And then the inverse is happening as well, where the general manager wants to push, and the parts manager is like, whoa, 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 we're doing lots of work already. Why are we doing more work online for really low margin? And so I think that's typically the biggest schism we see when we work with dealers, is just resolving that internally. At the same time, there's a lot of operational stuff that is unique for selling parts online as opposed to selling parts over the back counter or front counter or wholesale. So we talk a lot about who's going to pick, pack, and ship. How are you getting price quotes for shipping? What tools are you using to manage that? So that's part of our initial advice. And then as far as like marketing and advertising goes, generally speaking, I like what Liam and Mike said. Like the problem from our perspective is not really, none of what we do is particularly hard. It's just there's a lot of little adjustments that we make that most agencies don't know about because they don't understand our industry. A lot of times agencies will work with anyone who is local, right? So you can find 5 or 10 advertising companies within 20 miles of your dealership, and they'll all come visit you, and a lot of them will do a really good job of selling you. But because they don't understand the business, it's just like Mike said, like they're going to waste a lot of your money figuring out things that we know when we do a campaign. Like when we set up a campaign, we know what to do on day one, and they might spend 6 months going, oh, wait a minute, you mean a Prius buyer and a Super Duty buyer don't have the same thoughts and beliefs about what's important when they buy parts online? Yeah, like it's a completely different customer. So anyway, my big note would be for any dealers watching would be the operations is where a lot of this stuff lives and dies. Like you'll figure out the e-commerce part of this and the revenue part of this, that'll come, especially if you've got a good team. But the getting everybody on the same page thing, that can kill a really successful operation.
What a great point. I want to go ahead and throw out there right now, as we're nearing the end. If you have any questions as the audience, feel free to go ahead and submit those and we will revisit those in a few minutes. But as my final question, do you guys have any particular success stories that you'd like to share, or any stories that come to mind, and you don't have to name names?
I can think of one if you guys want me to go first. So
Sure.
we had a partner come to us that had a very large budget of, well, compared to the average, they had a large budget of $35,000 a month, about $330,000 a month in sales. And they were using their internal marketing department that was more focused on the sales. They didn't really understand e-commerce all that well. They had very few campaigns considering the size of the budget. They weren't really like spreading out the budget well. So what we did is we basically came up with a strategy and a plan to drastically reduce their budget in order to like bring down, we literally cut it in half from 35,000 down to a little bit more than in half, down to $16,000. And then increase their ROAS immediately because sales didn't drop. The way we were able to do that was, again, spreading out the budget, creating more campaigns, just doing best practices on the site, optimizing the site for conversion rates and those types of things. So after the first month, sales didn't drop, even though ad spend was cut in half. So obviously that's going to increase ROAS by double. They went from like around 10 ROAS up to 20. And then over the next few months, we kept making tweaks, kept the budget where it was. ROAS started to increase a little bit, and then we just recommended, hey, let's slowly start to crank up the budget now that everything's more efficient and ad spend's actually being spent effectively. And now the last time that I checked, I think they were at a budget of $25,000 up from, or down from 35,000. So it's about a 30% less budget. And now sales are up to 470,000. So that's 30% less budget to make 42% more revenue, which is obviously great. It's bringing all that money down to the bottom line for them. So that's obviously a really good success story. And like you can see the results there if you just like kind of take a step back, rethink what you're doing, optimize things, and then push forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really great.
That's a great story. My best story is just, we've had several, and I hate to brag, we've had several clients over the years who say the same, something along the lines of, when we started working with you, we had this many people working in our parts department. Now we have this many people. And I tell that to my team more than I as often as I can when that happens, because that's what we do. Like marketing is not rocket science or medicine or something fun and exciting and changing the world. It's boring and it's data and it's Google, it's, you know, whatever. But when we are successful, people get jobs, right? Departments grow. Obviously compensation grows, which is great. Everybody loves that. But that's how we add meaning to the world through our clients, right? And so that's the thing that I think is really cool.
I like that.
That's awesome. Nothing's better than creating jobs at the end of the day. I agree with that. That's the thing that I find pride in more than anything, is when there's jobs created because of the work that you do. So yeah, that's amazing. And I could share similar stories to Liam. Usually we are the same thing. We get clients like spending a ton of money, getting poor returns, and we almost always do the same thing. We cut budgets. And we get it performing at a base, and they usually get the same amount of revenue they were getting with a quarter of the budget, and then it just grows over time. It's pretty standard stuff that we see a lot of. People just, you know, they have an agency that's not sure what they're doing. Like we had one customer, they were spending 6 figures a month on marketing and they were getting less than a 1x return. So like we took it, we cut it way back, and they got the same revenue from like, 20% of the budget, and then, grew it over time and then increased the budget back up. It's pretty common.
Yes.
A lot of it too is working with them on more than the marketing. I would say too, though, is some of these best practices we've talked about. Like we work beyond just, your SEM campaigns. Like we talk to you about like your retailing and the best practices and the fulfillment stuff and the imagery stuff we talked about and promotions. And like we're really partners in your business more so than just like a standard agency would be. Like a regular agency is going to come in, typically take your ad budget, run your campaigns. And I think you guys are the same way as we are, where we're a partner, you know, in your business, and we're dedicated to the success of your business. Our pay is based off what you make. Like that's how our model is. So like if you're not successful, we're not successful.
You know?
Yeah.
I think all three of us would go month to month, right? Liam, you guys are on a month to month agreement with your clients. It's just,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of, and I know, Mike, I think Revolution works that same way. Like that's, if you're looking for agencies, that's one of the best ways to figure out who's worth a damn, is if they want you to commit for 6 months or a year to work with them, pass. Like they're not any good. If they were any good, they wouldn't need you to commit to 6 months or a year. They'd be able to commit for a month, knowing, just like Liam knows, just like Mike knows, just like I know, if you come work with us, we're going to make you grow. Like that's what we do. So I'm not concerned if you are locked in, you know, and I think that that's a common issue that we run into with talking about these stories of clients coming to us and wasting money and stuff. Like we've all seen that, right? A lot of times it's the agency that has the, you know, they borrow their service cancellation policy from the cable company, right? Like it's really hard to cancel. They make you stay, you know, those are all red flags. And unfortunately, all those agencies give marketing a bad name. Like there's a lot of great marketing companies out there, and then there's everybody else, you know, so, but anyway.
Yeah, those are great. We're going to check in to see if we have any questions. Oh, somebody said they like the Roadmaster.
Nice. I like it too.
Wow.
It's got the LT1 motor in it, the old LT1, not the new one. That would be really cool. But the old LT1. So it gets up and goes. I can make the tires chirp, which is exciting because it's a 4,400 pound vehicle. So anyway, my kids love it too because they can fly. They've got that seat in the back that faces the wrong way, so they can just do this when I turn a corner. But anyway, Liam, what you race your 94? Is it a quarter mile car or a track car?
More of like autocross road racing is what I'm building it for. Got a 408 Windsor in it. So yeah, it goes pretty good.
Sounds all right. Yeah. Sounds fun, man.
Never really been into like the drag racing stuff, but my brother was. My father had like a 03 Cobra that he drag raced, and my brother had like a old 80s notchback that he was racing as well a few years ago.
Awesome.
Much faster than my car though, 8-second nitrous car.
Well, faster in a straight line.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony also wants to know if it's a Mustang 4.6 liter or 5.0.
Was a 5.0, now it's 6 point something because it's a 408 Windsor.
Nice. All right, here's a paid advertising question. How would you recommend moving more volume without giving away all your gross profit? Is TikTok, actually this is multi-part, so I'll go ahead and let you guys answer that one. And I can reread it if you need me to.
I would say like a couple things, and I'll let you go, Liam. Like just simple things. Like we find, like I think when there's unique images, like you can sometimes get a little more margin, like because you're a little bit different, and it sets you apart. It will boost your conversion rate a little bit. If you can add items in, like if you can kind of kit or bundle some stuff together, you can bake a little margin in sometimes that way as well, and prevent some of the cross shopping. Yeah, those are like a couple things. I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, I would say like there's two ways to go about it. Like one, you could go like the Amazon route where your prices are really low, and it's just like the Amazon, Walmart type of strategy. The other way to do it is, like you said, like take pictures, customize your site, make it more unique and stand out compared to others. Humanize your site, make it obvious that you're a dealership, and like like on the About Us page, actually have an image of the dealership and the parts department team, those types of things. We're really big on that, just customizing it and, like I said, humanizing the site. And those custom images are, again, going to make it significantly more likely that somebody purchases. So even though your part might be a couple dollars more because you're not as cheap as the competitor, if the competitor just has a schematic image, it's going to feel a little bit more safe, like your site is a little bit more legit, and it's going to improve that like consumer trust of your site and make it more likely that somebody will purchase from you.
Reminded of my old sales training days, like back in my dealership days, we'd have a sales trainer come in and they'd say, the number one tool in your arsenal, and then they'd hold up the phone. Like, I don't think we talk about the phone enough in e-commerce, especially with OEM parts. You have a lot of people buying parts that someone else is going to install. And the number one concern that those customers have is ordering the wrong thing. And the way that they allay, most of those customers allay that concern is they pick up the phone and they call you. And if you've got a good sales team on the phone, that's compensated correctly, they are able to get those customers served and pick up additional orders, and it's surprisingly impactful. So I think that's one area where you can grow. Another area where you can grow is customers are really good at looking at part pricing, not so good looking at shipping pricing. So something to keep in mind is there might be just as much margin in some items in the markup on your shipping costs as there is in the part.
The next question is about social media paid advertising. Is social media like TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook worth it?
I think it's definitely worth it if that's a part of your strategy to do. If you're more focused on like long-term branding, I think it can definitely be worth it. But at the end of the day, a lot of this type of marketing is more of like a need base rather than a want. It's not like a t-shirt or something like that that you might see in an ad on Facebook or a pair of shoes or something. It's more of like, my car's broke, I need a new alternator, or a new headlight or something like that. So it's a lot more, what we've seen at least, it's a lot more like low funnel. That's usually what we focus most of the budget on. But the larger clients that have that vision in mind where they want to build it for long term, it's definitely an option to do social media marketing and just like put the brand out there. It's a little bit more management. You need to make sure that you're staying on top of comments and reviews and stuff like that. So you don't want to set that and forget it, because your brand reputation could be hurt if you're not really on top of it.
All right. Next one is, how do you compete? Oh, sorry.
I just want to
Go
ping
ahead.
on a couple of things. So one thing is retargeting, right? Like, you want to run retargeting on social no matter what. It's really effective. I'm sure that's part of your mix too, Liam. So that's one. Two, there is an opportunity to do some prospecting, but you've got to have something unique or interesting. So like Mike mentioned kitting earlier, like kitting plus maybe kitting some things together that wouldn't normally be kitted together, but they're really helpful to the customer. That can be a great sort of exciting, interesting thing you can promote on social media and make money with. But as a general rule, it's a small percentage of your ad budget as a retailer, right? If you're a brand, it's a different story. But as a retailer, it's 3, 5, 10%. Also, TikTok, I have yet, I don't know, Mike, Liam, if you guys had any success there, I've yet to generate any meaningful return on ad spend with TikTok ads. So we've tested it several times. There's no there. I think part of the problem is everybody on TikTok is 15 and a lot of them don't have their driver's licenses. But anyway, that was just my 2 cents on that.
No success on TikTok yet either. Not a lot of focus yet on TikTok as well. I mean, I think there's other channels that you probably should look at first.
Totally, yeah.
All right. How do you compete with big companies like Amazon advertising the exact same part? Okay, so sorry, my eyes are really bad. Let me start over. How do you compete with big companies like Amazon advertising the exact same part at you, but at a very competitive price? And will Google ever rank higher than them? So how do you compete against Amazon advertising?
I feel like we get that question. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. I feel like we get that question all the time. Like, how do we compete with these big brands? And the answer is, as a retailer, if you have a niche, you have more credibility with the customer. So, what Amazon has is everything. What Walmart has is everything. Do they oftentimes, can I go on Amazon right now and find a part listing with the wrong fitment? Yes, I can, right? Like, it's relatively easy. And the same thing is true of Walmart. There's a lot of companies on there selling counterfeit products, right? Like, that's an issue that is not necessarily in the front of a lot of customers' minds, but is in the front of a lot of the manufacturers' minds. Like, some of the companies we work with make the parts, right? And they are seeing lots and lots of counterfeiting happening. It's only a matter of time before the consumer realizes that they're being tricked, and that Amazon and Walmart are sort of part of the problem. So I definitely think having a niche and knowing what your niche is really critical to compete. And then on a pricing standpoint, you're never going to try, you never really want to try and beat them. You really want to offer your alternative, right? Like we're a family-owned business. We're a business where you get a phone call if you have a problem. We provide great support. We guarantee fitment. These are all things that Amazon and Walmart don't talk about or won't do. And again, the phone, like, how do I call it? How do I call Amazon, right? Like, what's the phone number for Amazon? So another great opportunity to differentiate anyway.
Great. I think those are all of our questions. I would like to go in and thank you guys very much for joining us. It was a wonderful discussion. Do you guys have any last minute comments or want to share how somebody might reach out if they want to learn more about you or have any questions?
Sure, yeah. Spork, like spoon fork. It's a dumb name, easy to remember. So you'll find it, just Google it.
Did you come up with the name, Jason? I was curious.
I did. It's kind of I'll try and keep it short. I was told by my accountant I needed an LLC. I was doing some things on my own that were making pretty good money, and I had to figure out how to not pay as much taxes. And she said, make a business name and do the whole thing. I said, fine. And I was driving in my car going, what am I going to call this thing? And I just said Spork, and I laughed, and that's the name. And I'm stuck with it. I can't get rid of it. So it was like a last minute. Yeah, it's a terrible name. I love it. It's funny. It makes me laugh. So I guess it's fine. But anyway, people remember it.
Yeah, and you
Like
can find
it's fun.
at oeminteractive.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, or you could email me as well, lcambra@oeminteractive.com. But we do much more than just paid advertising. We do all of it, SEO, just like you guys, UX, those types of things, email marketing. I know this was focused on paid advertising, but we really do quite a bit, even like chatbots, those types of things. So look forward to hearing from anybody that wants to reach out.
And you can find me on LinkedIn too, Revolution Parts. You can email Lauren, she can forward you over to me. And yeah, I agree, Liam. Like, yeah, we all do all the things, and we probably all recommend that you do more than just SEM. Like, SEM alone is not going to build you a successful parts business.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.